or Facebook created a specific app for us to use, and they wanted us to have a chat from noon to 4
I
today.
can see you, Norma. Sorry, Norma was she's using my laptop so that we log in on the same account. Sometimes it kicks one of us out, or it doesn't allow me to control stuff.
Yeah, because it says I'm the host.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You may just have to hit that record button then. That'll be the only thing, Norman.
All right. How are you today, Julie?
Hey, how are you? I'm good.
Oh, there we go. Oh.
Get you back. Okay. I'm gonna shut my door so we don't
Echo.
repeating noises here. It's like an echo.
Our offices are right next to each other. So I pick up feedback or she picks up the feedback on ours. Even though we have walls. There. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Where does you said your daughter goes to preschool? Where does she go to preschool?
She goes to St. Anthony, and then she goes to an in-home daycare after that.
My son goes to St. Anthony, so he's in the 3-year-old class.
Oh, she's in the 4-year-old class. Does your son have Miss Renee or Miss Miss Marie or Miss Courtney?
He has Miss Renee, and he loves her.
She's amazing. I know her as a friend. She never taught Hannah, but she's a friend of mine, and she is probably like one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah, he is all the time like, I love Miss Renee. Can you send Miss Renee this picture?
Yes.
Like we went, and since she was quarantined, over the holidays, and so she missed that little bit of school, like we brought her present out there, and Dane like, I don't want to go. Can I stay here? And I was like,
did he get to
be
see
okay with it?
Did he get to see her dogs?
Yes. Yeah. So she'll send videos of them, but yeah, he loves her. So then he'll be in the 4-year-old class next year, and I want to be like, can you just keep him, Miss Renee? Like, but I'm guessing they'll probably. I wonder if they'll switch it up or.
Hannah had Miss Courtney for both years.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fine if he had Miss Renee just because he loves her. So he actually goes to St. Anthony on those days, and the other days he does the Little Lambs. Mm-hmm. So he's like full-time school.
Yeah. I think that, and in a lot of places, I think even where Miss Renee came from, there's a lot of places that do have 5-day-a-week preschool.
Yeah, but he loves it. I feel like he kind of needs that structure. He was in an in-home before, but I feel like I learned a lot just over quarantine somehow from me. And then just being in that school setting, I feel like he's doing a lot better, and he loves it. He just loves little kids. So
yeah.
Good morning.
They do a good job at Little Lambs.
Yes, they do.
I know a lot of kids who have liked it there.
Yeah, he likes it. And it's both faith-based, so that's what I like. So, so yeah. Hi, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Okay. Then let's see who else was on there.
Hi, Julie. How are you doing?
I'm good, Tom. How are you?
Good. Been a crazy year, hasn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
just have a couple more.
Julie, do you have a cat on your lap?
I do, and she won't go away. If I try to like push her off, she'll just talk. So
Okay.
she'll be quiet here.
Well, as long as your name tag is up, I can't see her, but
Yeah.
when you're
Every time you'll see a tail flip up here.
yeah.
Yeah, Cheetah's gonna help today.
Did you say her name's Cheeto?
Cheetah.
Cheetah, gotcha. As my friend has a cat, Cheeto.
Yeah, he's Cheetah.
Well, good morning, everyone. We'll be getting started just in a minute or two. We're going to wait and let everybody else get on the call. So in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself during the presentation, use the chat box to put questions in, and then we'll open up the mics a little bit later. So.
Norma, did you want our videos on, or do you want them off?
You are welcome to have your videos on. It's just fine.
All right, let's see. We might have everyone. Let's see. So Prima's on. Mike, I don't know who just popped on through the phone. Jennifer's on. So I think we're just missing. No. Norm, I think we're missing one, but they may just hop on.
Okay.
I can click through those early slides if you guys want to get started, and just let me know when you want me to move on.
Yep. We'll do that here in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a little bit after 9, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And welcome today to the first of our new HYPE webinar series. HYPE stands for Heighten Your Professional Edge. And so we want to use these opportunities every month to talk about things that would help you in your business and your personal life and your professional career, with topics that relative to the idea of heightening your professional edge. So personal development, professional development, those kinds of things. They will be monthly on the third Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. So you want to mark your calendar for those, that'd be great. And be looking for future topics in the near future. We'll be starting to promote what topics are going to be talked about in the next, for the rest of this year. As we mentioned earlier, please keep your microphone muted. You're welcome to have your video up during the presentation, but we'd like you to keep your microphone muted. Put any questions that you have in the chat box. We will be opening up the microphones later on. Julie, I know wants to keep this interactive, so be sure and keep your questions, write them in the chat box, or just keep track of them and ask them later. I do want to thank VANTAGE Outsourcing as our HYPE sponsor for 2021. We're really appreciative of their support of this new initiative for the Chamber. One of the things we all know that 2020 made a lot of changes to how we do business. One of those things that we're doing is providing more virtual content. And so this is one of the ways we're doing that with the HYPE webinars. So today we have Julie Everett, who's going to be presenting a topic on using your financial resources. And Julie is a certified financial planner. She is a mom, she says, with a smart and powerful little girl. She's finalized her estate plan to carry out all her wishes. So she feels that that's very comforting to her as a single mom. And she actually got through grad school with no debt. So she has her BS in marketing from Illinois State University and her MBA from Eastern Illinois University. She grew up in downstate Illinois. She worked in the service industry early on as a server and a bartender to help herself get through college. And she had her first grown-up job as a personal banker. Excuse me, I shut off the. One of the things I forgot to do was to unplug the phone. So she's done a lot on her own to make sure she has a secure financial future, and she wants to share some tips and ideas with you today. So please join me in welcoming Julie Everett.
Well, good morning, guys. And I spend a lot of my day on Zoom and utilizing webcasts. So I'm pretty casual on here. So I hope that you feel comfortable in, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can also, feel free to, even if you want to send them to me specifically, that's fine too. So let me get back to where I just was. I had it up and then I lost it. I wanted to find the chat box. There, now I've got the chat box. Okay. So a little bit about me and what I do. I am a financial planner and I provide planning services to the employees of large companies. And so what that means is that I don't have individual contracts or relationships with individual. Large companies like Facebook have a contract with my company, and then I'm just a hired hand for them. I'm one of about 30 on the team, and we do financial planning for their employees. So what that means is I have come across a multitude of situations and different family structures, geographical areas. And so when I say, be open and willing to ask questions, it's because I feel like I've heard a lot of different things. So don't worry if you feel like your situation is out of the ordinary. The one thing that I have found from working at this place is there is no ordinary. So this main thing, what I want to talk about today, and my cat may join me periodically just so that she stays quiet, but the main thing that I want to talk about today is leveraging the financial resources that you already have. I think people can, we get so hyper-focused on the paycheck that's in front of us and the obvious things that I think that we can sometimes lose sight of other options that we may have. So the three scenarios that I would talk about would be if you might be in crisis mode, for the laid off, for the furloughed. That would also include if hours have been cut and just your income is less than it had been. And then if the last one would be, that need to prepare. So far things are going pretty well. You've got stable income, those types of things. How can you prepare yourself if we can kind of continue on, with some of the hurdles that we've had over the last year. So once again, feel free to use the chat box at any time. At the very end, we'll have an open Q&A, but I also have some kind of frequently asked questions that I've been hearing, and I will address those also. So for the first one, I'm in a crisis. For a lot of times, that means that maybe people were already behind. Maybe they were already just kind of barely hanging on. And whether it be a disruption in their work or whether it be the introduction of some new debts or bills, it can put someone into a state of panic. And, knee-jerk reactions can cause people to, make a decision that can sometimes put them either, even deeper in that hole. So this situation would be for a family or an individual who needs relief right away. So one thing that I have found interesting from all of the people that I talk to is how lenient creditors have been in this time. So if you find yourself in crisis and you have debts that are looming over you, the first thing you want to do is contact your creditors. Let them know the situation is not great. And I have heard that there are credit card companies who will temporarily lower your interest rate just to provide some relief during that time. Now, that's not going to be a forever fix. It might be a 6-month thing, but it's definitely worth asking. There's been some other creditors who have helped to kind of or just make some kind of temporary concession. The other thing to do would be to prioritize your bills. And what this means, and once again, this is for our individuals, our workforce, our employees, for whoever who is in a crisis mode. They need to pay what's going to keep them in their homes, and what's going to keep their lights on, and what's going to keep their communication flowing. So in terms of keep their families fed. So in terms of priorities, those bills need to be raised to the top. And then some of the other stuff, that might be the one. If something's going to fall behind, you want to be selective about what bill it is that is falling behind. So, in creating a crisis budget, that's where you put the ugly out there on paper, either on paper or on apps. And there are a lot of different ways to create a budget. If you're like me, I like a pen and paper, but then again, I feel like I have kind of pretty simple finances. All my bills go on one side column, and then my paycheck, my income that's coming in is a separate number, and I compare the two. Some people like to use more technology, and there's some really good free apps for that. I have signed up for Mint in the past just to see how it works because it's free. And for me, it wasn't something that I kept up with just because I do like pen and paper, but there are lots of different ways to establish a budget. And the best method for keeping track of your income and your expenses is whatever you will stick with. So go ahead, try a couple and see which one seems to be the easiest to work with. So this next point has been a really sticky one because I know from a lot of the calls that I have taken, I've heard some shame when they make the statement of, I know I shouldn't have, but I blew my stimulus check. I had been stressed out. Money had been tight. We get this stimulus check and I blew it, kind of that temporary gratification thing. Well, if you're still hanging on to any of the residuals from the stimulus check we just got, or you're anticipating a tax refund, go ahead and commit to yourself that you're going to hang on to it. If you need to treat yourself to a dinner out, that's one thing. But saving the vast majority of that when you're in a moment of crisis to either help catch up a little bit, but I would almost argue also help build up a buffer if you don't have one. I think that would provide much more comfort in the long run than any one activity, that you blow that money on might do. So looking for temporary income can also be a help. This one is a bit tougher during this time. It used to be, we'd say if you needed some temporary income, you'd look in the service industry or babysitting or tutoring. And because of our current restrictions, that face-to-face hasn't been as obvious. It hasn't been as available. So I have heard from individuals that I have worked with that there are some online income opportunities in terms of a lot of it is over the phone or taking surveys or different things like that. Another good thing about utilizing a possibility like that is you might not need to have additional childcare, which I also know is tight right now. So be open-minded about how to, maybe bring some additional income into your household. So exploring community resources, this was something that came up on the horizon, I believe, last year through the Effingham Public Library. They have an Effingham County case manager, and this individual is a tremendous resource for us as a community because she's able to do a number of things, but her main goal is to put individuals in touch with the entities who can help them. So if you need help getting through your unemployment application, she can do that. If you need help securing one of the free phones through the government programs, she can help you. If you need assistance, bringing food into the home, like, it's amazing how many resources have been dispersed in our county. I know I'm on the board of the Community Foundation, and we had created a COVID in the pandemic, and the amount of money that had been dispersed through that Community Foundation fund into our local non-for-profits for the purpose of supporting our families, through this pandemic crisis is phenomenal. I think it was over the $500,000 mark. So I know it's hard to kind of keep tabs on all of those different agencies and what they do and what they have. So by utilizing the Effingham County case manager there at the library, she can put you in touch with those entities. And she is available Monday through Thursday from 9 to 1 at the Effingham Public Library. So the last point of accessing retirement funds and payday loans as a last resort, the payday loan, I definitely want to say that if you're in crisis mode, that means there's not an obvious end to this struggle. So sometimes, by accessing some of those high interest loans, you just create a deeper hole than you maybe had been in. When it comes to accessing the retirement funds, I know that before the end of the year, there had been some provisions that were available that had not been available before. And as of right now, those provisions have not been extended. So not only for the sake of your 2021 tax bill, but also for your long-term retirement goals, I would definitely say try to hold off accessing those sources of money as a last resort. So if we're talking about individuals who for themselves or their partner who've maybe lost a source of income, or the hours have reduced, so the income has reduced along with it, these are more temporary moves, temporary suggestions, because you're assuming then that things will go back to normal at some point in time. I saw a chat thing pop up. Oh, perfect. All right, it looks like we've got some additional information that I'll be able to share for where to look for some extra income or additional sources of income. So when it comes to a temporary disruption, number one, apply for unemployment. If you don't know how to do that, you can go to the library. Oh, but a debt is or much easier. So if you don't have access to one of those through work or at home, you'd be able to do that at the library. Another note, making the most without a tax refund. If you don't already have an emergency fund, so I'm talking now to the situation to where it's a temporary disruption. They going into this, maybe they felt okay. It's easy when things are going well to overlook the importance of an emergency fund. Emergency fund would be 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. So if it keeps $3,000 a month for your household to keep on trucking, that's rent or mortgage, that would be the insurance, that would be car payments, that would be daycare, that would be food, that would be utilities. You would encompass everything. If it takes $3,000 to keep your household trucking, then that means your minimum emergency fund would be $9,000. And that, I know that might sound like an insurmountable hill. But that is the rule of thumb, and it's something that can be built over time. So if you find yourself having received a stimulus check, or if you find yourself, you're going to be receiving a tax refund, if you don't already have that emergency fund, that might be a really good place to park that. So applying for short-term jobs, and once again, a resource has been provided to me that Tom shared that for where people can look in this area. Also, finding a way or exploring ways to pause bills. And so this isn't asking for a break in your regular contract. This isn't asking for a reduction in rate. This is just seeing if you can buy yourself some time during, a disruption in work or reduced income. So for this particular situations, using a loan option is something that you might consider if you do see yourself going back to work in your full capacity. I'll say a little bit here about 401k loans, because 401k loans seem to be a really easy thing to get a hold of. A lot of times you can apply for them on your own, and you can apply for them online, and then the money can just show up in your bank account, and there was no credit check, and you didn't have to supply any pay stubs for documentation, and the rate seems low, and all in all, it just seems like a really good and easy deal. But there are some things you want to keep an eye on before you make that selection. Number one, keep in mind that the amount of the loan that you borrow, that's going to leave the investment that it had been in and kind of sit alongside earning a lesser interest rate. So not saying that that's a game changer over the short run, but if you have made this a habit in the past, and if it's something that you continue to do, just know you're really shortchanging your retirement growth by moving that over into a loan bucket. Number two, there's always a fee. Seems like there's always a fee that goes along with it. So just keep tabs. If you're getting charged $75, $100, I've even seen $150 to apply for a loan. And then I've seen annual loan fees that go along with it. And then know the terms, know what you have available. I have seen loans being situated in a number of different ways by some companies. There are some companies that will say, yeah, you can make prepayments on this, pay this back early if you would like. There's other companies that say no, that you've got to pay by the original terms and there's no prepayments allowed. I have seen some companies that say, sure, if you leave employment, you can, and as long as you set an automatic, an automatic payment out of your checking account, you can continue to make loan payments on this loan. I've seen the vast majority say, no, if you stop working here, that loan is going to become payable, due, within 90 days or something like that. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, then it comes from the balance of your retirement account, which now looks like a distribution, which now has tax implications. So for as easy as a 401k loan appears to be, just make sure that you know the terms, and you should be able to find that within a document that would be tied to your plan. Sometimes it would be referred to as the SPD. It's also known as the summary plan descriptions. It's like a phone book, like old school phone book worth of material, but there's going to be loans that are going to be stuck in there somewhere, and you'll be able to see what those different terms are. So once again, if that is an avenue that you think is helpful, just make sure that number one, what are the fees? Number two, what are your payoff options? And number three, what if you stop working there? Because those are the three things that can make a big difference when it comes to 401k loans. I've also seen people utilize home equity loans that say to kind of get them through, this kind of a crunch time. Be aware of those same exact things, minus the employment one. Know what the terms are, know what the fees are, and, just realize that is going to be, at least temporarily, but reducing the amount of equity that you have in your house. So I sincerely hope that the majority of our community would be in this place here, where things seem to be going okay, but they recognize that there are challenges out there and they want to prepare for themselves and for their household, just to help them reduce some of that. So creating a budget. I love budgets. I know that they're not everybody's fit. I just seeing those numbers and, kind of calling out your ugly habits, whether that be Starbucks or whatever it is. But I feel like that is a good exercise to go through. Maybe you're the type of person who needs to have your budget follow you, in which case Mint, I'll say it again, and Mint is free, so I get nothing out of it. I just have used it, so I mention it. Mint is good because if you put in there what your allowance is going to be for the month for, let's say, groceries, it will let you know if you're exceeding, if you're on pace with, or if you have leftover monies within that budget. It also has the ability to kind of pull through and link through several different accounts. So if you currently have debt, you can link through some of those debt accounts as well. So it does a good job of helping you keep track if you have a goal to maybe pay that down. So I would say if you are in a comfortable spot right now, bulking up your savings is a good plan. Cash is king right now. It really is. You'll never regret, saving a little bit extra in a time of crisis with so much uncertainty right now. So 3 to 6 months of usual monthly expenses. Another note that I will bring up, being that I am the sole source of income and decisions for my own household, and I know there's probably several other people out there who are as well. When you determine, is 3 months okay or 6 months okay? Like, where do I need to fall? The likelihood of both earners completely losing their income is slim. So if 3 months makes you feel comfortable for you and your partner, 3 months worth of expenses, if that makes you feel comfortable, then I'm not gonna argue with you on that. But if you're the sole provider within your household, you might want to try to work your way up beyond that 3 month, just because it is just you. It is just you and your one source of income. So it's just kind of an extra peace of mind that you might have, knowing that you have some additional cash sitting there, even if it's a slow grow, even if it takes you 2 years to get there. So needing to prepare. One thing that I still come across all the time, I would have thought with as much money as the kind of the financial wellness industry, brings in, and I'm speaking here to more so to the financial gurus, like the ones that we see on TV of this is how you get rich and this is how you create wealth. And we've heard a lot of that over a decade. But we as Americans, we still love our high interest debt for some reason. So if you feel like you're in a comfortable spot now, let's just go ahead and take a look at that debt. I'm talking 6% or above. I hear people say, oh, the interest rate's not too bad. It's only 6.5%. Well, if you've looked at the rates that we're getting paid at the bank and what your house is costing you, like 6 is still pretty high. So if you're hanging on to debt that is 6% or higher, then finding a way to either refinance that at a lower rate or to make a plan to pay that off. Just because that's extra money that you're giving to someone else that you could be keeping for yourself. Also, with there being some uncertain times, possibly delaying large purchases if you can. To this, I am speaking somewhat to like things like vehicles, just because we do have some uncertainty in our job market right now. Applying for and getting approved for a loan for a big new dream vehicle, I would hope that nobody struggles. Beyond this, I would hope that we're on the mend as an economy. But we do still have some considerable risk out there for further job disruption. So if you have the ability to delay some of those large purchases, not saying never get that dream car, just saying we might want to wait till there's a little bit more certainty or at least wait until you've got the cash in the bank. And I mean, if you've got the cash in the bank and you're paying cash for the car, then by all means you go. But once again, taking on debt, spending some of your emergency cash in a time of uncertainty, might lead to more stress and anxiety down the road. So, looking for opportunities to save for longer term goals. This is where, when open enrollment comes around, and I know that for most companies, open enrollment just happened, but there are some ways that you can kind of beef up your savings and not even realize it. So first thing, when you're looking at your retirement savings, make sure you're getting your match, at least. If you're not contributing enough to at least get the full match from your employer, you are leaving money on the table. Now, that's kind of like the bare minimum, because it may or may not get you where you want to be, but I would definitely say make that a priority. If they are matching dollar for dollar up to 3% with 0.5% for the next 2, then that means you're doing 5, just so that you're not leaving any extra money on the table. And if whatever formula it is, if that seems complicated, don't be afraid to ask. There's always going to be somebody who's tied to that plan, whose job is to kind of help you understand that. So other ways would be if you find yourself utilizing medical services or prescriptions or different things quite a bit, maybe something like an FSA might be good for you. So what you do is you set aside money pre-tax. So you get your tax savings on there on the front end. And then you use that money throughout the year for doctor's visits, medications, LASIK, braces, it goes on and on. What you want to be sure before you jump in, don't jump in with both feet on a FSA, because you do need to exhaust that account, use it all up by the end of the year. You don't want to lose those funds. If you have the ability to use an HSA or a health savings account within your employer, it's also one to consider. So if you and your family don't typically have a whole lot of medical expenses, then you can look into one of the high deductible plans that would allow you to set aside money in your HSA. So cool things about HSA, you set aside your money pre-tax. So that's your tax savings on the front end. And this can accumulate over time. It isn't something that you have to use up every single year. And for a lot of these HSA providers, once you have a certain balance, you can invest it. So whether it be $1,000 or $2,000, you can start investing it. So I think one of my favorite features of the HSA is that you don't have to recognize that medical bill and take out a distribution in the same year. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're regularly contributing to your HSA and putting money in there. Maybe you have $100 or $200 of medical bills each year. You can just save that for your records. And then if and when the day comes where you need to take a distribution, you can still use all of the balance of those bills, even if they happened years prior, to take out that distribution. The kicker is you had to be on that high deductible health insurance plan when that medical bill was incurred. So you can't start an HSA today and pay off your broken arm from last year. It doesn't work like that. So the reason why I mention this is because it's becoming more and more common for employers to make contributions to HSA accounts. So if your employer is willing, able, ready to put money into a health savings account on your behalf, I think it is worth taking a look at, would that type of plan work well for your family? It's not a silver bullet for everybody, but it can be a good way to accumulate wealth. So let's say that you continue to have manageable health expenses over the course of your entire career, and you have money left over in your HSA at the end of the day when you retire. Once you turn a certain age, you can access that HSA just like you would another retirement account. Yes, you'll pay ordinary income taxes on you if you take it out for something other than a qualified medical expense, But either way, it's just one more avenue that you were able to set aside money, tax deferred, and possibly even being able to invest that. So I'm going to take a break, see if there's any chats floating around. It doesn't look like there are. So some of the questions that I get on a day-to-day basis, retirement savings. People will be, I'm nervous about the market. March was rough and it's looking good. I'm worried it'll get rough again. Should I keep funding my retirement plan? My answer is always going to be yes to that. It might be that you need to switch your allocation around a little bit, but that's more because maybe you weren't allocated appropriately for your risk tolerance to begin with. I very rarely say, yes, let's make a switch because of what might happen in the political environment, because none of us know that. So invest for your risk tolerance and your time frame. If you don't have the guts for a 25% loss, then you don't need to be all in the stock market, regardless of how well the S&P 500 has done. So another one, should I take a distribution from my retirement plan? This one I'm hearing about because people are just saying, I want to get rid of my debt. I want to be completely debt free. I have this little bit of debt over here, especially if they say it's their house, because that's a big payment, but a low interest rate. And they're thinking about taking money out of their retirement plan to pay off that debt. The thing is that you're not just eliminating the debt that you're looking at. You're also eliminating the possibility of growth for whatever you take out. So really keeping in mind that, especially depending on your age. I mean, when you're younger and you take a sum of money out, even let's say, I hear it often, there's only like $5,000 in there. Let's take out the $5,000. Well, $5,000 and what the growth on that could have been over 20 years would blow your mind. So I still do believe that taking distributions from a retirement plan needs to be like your Hail Mary pass, like your very last option, just because of the long-term implications. Emergency fund, I talk about it a lot. It's the one thing that I wish as a society we knew the importance of, would be that emergency fund and the peace of mind that it can give you. Correct amount for an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months salary. And this is not really the place to be an overachiever. If you're hanging on to 18 months, I'm going to say you're overdoing that. And some of it needs to probably be getting a little bit more growth, in some type of investment. And is it a good idea to keep large amounts of cash at home? I don't think it's a bad idea to keep large amount, as in $250, $500 at home. But anything beyond that, you're really putting yourself at risk. If you were robbed, if you had a house fire, if you forget it. I moved into a house, the first house that I ever moved into, I found an envelope with $400 in there. Like, people forget stuff. So I don't necessarily think that keeping a large amount of cash at home sets you up for a good position. Investments. Should I get out of the market in case it crashes? I know a lot of people who got out of the market in case it was going to crash, and guess what it didn't do? It didn't crash. And a lot of us who are on the call right now have been through a so-called crash before, and we'll all tell you it came back. The only way to ensure that you don't lock in those losses forever is to stay in. Once you get out, your potential to rebound is gone. And, there are brilliant minds on Wall Street and other places in the world whose sole purpose is to make money in the market. And I have a feeling that the information trickles through quite a few layers of people before it makes its way to us. So the best thing, going back to, how to invest, would be invest for your goals, your risk tolerance, and your time frame. That is the best that you can do. Market timing has not proven itself to be an effective way for individual investors to get ahead. So this is another fun thing I've been hearing more and more about, and that would be cryptocurrency. Facebook is one of our largest clients, one of the largest clients that I work with, and I talk to a lot of people who work there, and it's been really interesting to hear Ivy League graduates and who happen to be software engineers and kind of what their perspective is on cryptocurrency. And the consensus is that it's hard to understand. So if you understand it, you're confident that you understand it, and you know the ins and outs of it, and you don't have any worries, then go ahead, try to give it a sliver of your portfolio. But the vast majority of people, myself included, I do not feel confident enough to where I understand the inner mechanisms, the risks, the implications. And so for that reason, I'm not taking, I'm not going to take a position in any kind of cryptocurrency. But that same sentiment goes for all investments. Understand it. Understand what's inside of there. Understand the fees that are a part of it, understand the restrictions, the tax implications. And I know that means you're taking on a lot of information. That also means that maybe we don't start with something as complicated as cryptocurrency or leveraged investments, or that there's all types of interesting, quirky ones that have been built to catch people's eye. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using plain vanilla investments to reach your goal. It doesn't make your story any less exciting. So to that is all I have. Do we have any questions?
Certainly, if you have a question for Julie, please open up your mic and ask it. This has been a really great topic and very timely. Lots of great information about, how to use your finances, how to spend wisely, how to save wisely, how to know when you need help and where to get help. So, Julie, thank you so much. And please, if anybody has any questions, don't miss this opportunity to ask them.
Julie, I just sent you another chat there. I agreed with you on the cryptocurrency comment. Yeah, one thing I heard here recently, which was interesting, I don't know if you've heard anybody doing this, but I saw something the other day where they actually had the currency on their CPU. And of course, I'm like you, I don't totally understand it myself either. And they actually pitched their CPU and couldn't recover the currency. So, I don't know anything. I don't know the details of the crypto, but it does even make me concerned.
Yeah, I think the lack of transparency and the lack of regulations seems really enticing to some, but that's the same exact thing that makes me nervous, because there's always, it was created by somebody. It's hard for me to believe that it's completely kind of open aired. So yeah, for myself, I'm gonna get where I'm going the regular old fashioned ways.
Right. There, Julie, you were talking about how people can make some extra income and things like that. And I don't know how many people on the call are aware, but there is a group, and I'm not very savvy at this either, but I was somehow got on the Effingham area jobs group, and I see postings every now and then from that group, and it's interesting. I mean, they post something every week or so, different jobs available.
Anybody else have anything, any comments, questions? Julie, thanks so much. It was very, very valuable information today. And so hopefully you got something out of it for yourself, for your business. And we look forward to you joining us again next month. It's on Thursday, February 18th at 9 a.m. I don't quite have the program nailed down yet, but working with a couple of different presenters and looking at the topic of communication, because I think you can never bypass the opportunity to learn more how to communicate with your employees, with your customers, and all of those things. So be looking for information. Like I said, we'll be having a full lineup of programs, at least for the next probably 6 months here very soon. So thank you
Norma?
for joining us. Yes.
Norma, can I ask Julie just to kind of give an overall quick summary of what it is she's doing right now? What she's obviously working with Facebook and some other corporates, but what are the things that you're offering people, and what are you looking for from the community? How can we help you?
So at this point in time, it's a fun place to be, being that in terms from what I can get back from the community is just kind of more of what they've always given. So I do have some free resources that I could share, a free link that I can share to some additional articles and things like that. People don't even have to put in their email address to get them. That would be from my company. But really, I feel like I'm at a spot now to where, financial literacy for everyone, that is something that is important to the company, my company. And that's what drew me there, is because that's where I am. So I just want to be able to kind of elevate and bring up that level of knowledge to absolutely anybody who needs it, whether it's as simple as balancing a checkbook or more complicated about, deciding about employer stock options. It doesn't really matter. So financial literacy is just it's something that I would like to. So, I mean, I guess the one thing is if employers feel like their people are struggling with it, I mean, it's not something that I contract with, but I would be happy to speak just to help. If there are any employers who feel like their workforce is in need.
Is it the first visit or two pretty much complimentary kind of thing?
I don't charge anybody anything. I won't be. So I just, like I said, I'm a hired hand for my company. So if there's an employer who says, listen, my people are really struggling, because there are a lot of resources that are available already. I mean, when it comes to investments, they snag people the most often because they're so confusing. Well, and I feel like a lot of employees don't realize there is a very well qualified advisor tied to every single one of their 401ks. So just showing them where to go, or when it comes to, leveraging health insurance benefits, there is an insurance agent, a well qualified insurance agent that's tied to that benefit. So sometimes it's just a matter of, who do I even go to help me become more efficient with my finances? There's typically somebody tied to that. They just might not know it.
That's right. Okay. So you're helping those type of people, and if there's anybody we talk to in our day-to-day lives that could use just some financial literacy help, you're willing to do that. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Great.
Terrific. Anybody else have any thought, any questions after that?
I just sent you a little note, chat. Julie, if you could just call me, because I have a couple of questions about trying to lower debt, startup debt here from the store, more quickly, especially in this like COVID environment when creditors and things are more lenient.
Yes. So within our crisis, within our COVID portal, we do have one specific area sectioned off to for business owners, and it does talk to scams because of the prevalence that goes along with the entities that have been reaching out saying, hey, I can help you out. So yeah, we do have some specific resources for business owners.
I think with that, we'll end today's webinar, and thanks again to Julie for a great presentation. Thanks to Tom for bringing some information out as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Julie.
All right.
Thanks to Van.
Well, you guys all have a great day.
Bye, Katie.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.